from last week's delivery. Please join me in welcoming David, and thank you in advance for your support as he finds his speech.
Blaise Pascal wrote, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." My response? Well, if you had to sit with my thoughts, you might have a problem too. What Blaise Pascal was implying was that the reason why man has a problem sitting quietly in a room alone, and hence all the suffering that ensues, is because of his thoughts and the stories that he tells himself. Stories full of insufficiency and lack. When our identity is so closely connected to the story, it's never enough. There always needs to be a little bit more to add to me to be more fully me. Memories about the past, projections of the future, judgments and labels, comparison to others. It's never enough. I need to wait for tomorrow. I haven't fully arrived yet at where I need to be the best version of myself. But there's a power in stories. Just turn on the television program and you're going to see it played out time and time again. One of my favorite shows back in the day was 24. A fictional drama where each episode represented 1 hour of the day. Kiefer Sutherland was brilliant. And if you watch that show, you would see him looking very stern. He'd have 1 or 2 people right next to him, and they're always walking briskly down a hallway. I've got to get there. I've got to get there. Where am I going? I'm walking into a room. I walk into a room. I'm going to talk. There's going to be some conversation, and then I'm going to leave that room. I'm going to walk again. I'm on a helicopter now, a larger room, a room on a battlefield. I'm walking into an outer room. In fact, I redefined television in that moment, watching that program, to be the art of walking into and out of a room. And more broadly applied, you'll notice it in every television show that you watch. Some do it better than others, with a little smile. But the power of stories, and what happens in those rooms, is that inevitably someone shares an anecdote about their childhood. And, those stories are always about pain and suffering. The reliable father who fulfills every promise to his children doesn't make for very compelling television, but we lean forward for the father who abandons his child outside a pub, never to be seen from again. This is the power of stories. In 2006, Rhonda Byrne released a film called The Secret. This was later followed by a book of the same name. The message was simple. Your external life is impacted by your internal thoughts. Change your internal thoughts, and you can change your external life. It was the law of attraction. We draw to us the things that we think about. And I remember all the vision boards that popped up. Pictures of money, pictures of yachts, pictures of beautiful women, handsome men, all these external things that we wanted. As we try to achieve and draw these things to ourselves through this act of thinking positively about them and having these vision boards. But what happens when the stories are negative? When I was 5 years old, I played a prank on my sister. I somehow, don't ask me why, I was already very accomplished to have achieved the prerequisite steps for my prank, hoisting a cardboard box and a rock up into a tree that I had then later planned to drop on my sister with the intention of the box hitting my sister and not the rock. I don't know why I did it. Somehow, I don't know how I coaxed her to walking under the tree, but somehow I did. And it was the sight of blood that told me things had taken a bad turn. I leapt from that tree like a 5-year-old Olympic pole vaulter and sprinted like a cheetah to tell my mom. We laugh about it now, but the small scar on her forehead is a reminder of unintended consequences. But the story I would later tell myself is, I wasn't a good brother. Good brothers don't hurt their sisters like that. Another story I heard growing up was that we had an uncle who was too uncomfortable coming to our house because we were too poor. Those stories are the most damaging. Stories about being, just being poor or whatever. And as a child, what can you do about that? So you start to look to the future to change it. And that's the power of stories. Now, I've just shared 2 stories from my childhood with you. But imagine there are hundreds, no, thousands more. They hurt me. She lied to me. My dad hit me. My mom betrayed me. My girlfriend broke up with me. This person did this. This person did that. Over and over and over again. When we're identified with the story, millions and millions and billions of neurons firing over and over, forming grooves in your mind with one message: I'm not good enough. This is the power of stories. Left unchecked, stories turn into an identity. Now, how do we stop that? How do we detach ourselves from the story? Well, the first thing we do is to recognize yourself as the observer of your thoughts. You can say, I recognize I'm having these thoughts, but I myself am not these thoughts. I feel angry is already a huge step up from just being angry, from just being connected. Now, once I become the observer of my thoughts, I can then act with intention. We cross thresholds all the time. We walk into rooms, into conversations, into jobs, into events. And my challenge to you is to do so with intention, to be aware of your thoughts, to recognize that they don't define you. And when you do that, you can act and not react. Now, I'll leave you with this. The greatest gift that you can give to yourself is to stop thinking. And if you need help doing that, plant your feet on the ground, close your eyes, feel your feet, feel your hands, take a deep breath, and recognize you are not your story. Thank goodness. Thank you.
Okay, evaluation